Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Escape from LA. Now, this is continuing my series of reviews where I try to review every film that John Carpenter ever directed. And since last time I did Escape from New York, I figured this time I would do Escape from LA. Now, Escape from LA and Escape from New York are really representative of two different parts of John Carpenter's career. Escape from New York was made right after The Fog. He was basically being able to do kind of what he wanted. He had a hit with Halloween. The critics liked him. Audiences seemed to like him for the most part. Then Escape from LA, John Carpenter had a lot of box office misses. He really hadn't had a hit in a long time. And it also shows, like, as a director, he really wasn't as strong. Now, Escape from LA is very similar plot-wise to Escape from New York. It's Snake Plissken is about to be extradited or deported, or however you want to say it, to LA, which has become an island in an earthquake that happened in 2000 in this alternate dystopian world that Snake Plissken lives in. They're going to send him there when they find out that the president's daughter has hijacked a plane and flown to LA to be with, like, this guy she's fallen in love with through her VR simulator that's kind of on the internet or something. You don't really get into it. So she goes with this controller that can turn off everything with power, like power generators, computers, televisions. None of it will work if this remote triggers these satellites, and it could do it to the whole world or an isolated area like a state or a country or a town. And she goes to live with this guy in LA, and Snake Plissken is instructed to get the controller back and maybe bring her back, but probably kill her because nobody likes her. Snake's in this prison state, and he has to get his target or he will be killed, because this time, instead of having charges in his bloodstream, he has this weird virus that will kill him after 8 hours and, like, slowly makes him weaker and have less energy, which I don't understand why you would put that on someone who's, like, trying to do a mission for you. They didn't give him as much time as last time, although he certainly accomplished it a lot. One of the things about Escape from New York and former Carpenter versus later Carpenter is former Carpenter, he loved Howard Hawks, and in his direction you could see, even in his camera movements, he loved old movies, and he was really trying to emulate those older directors and that old Hollywood kind of style, and John Wayne and all that stuff. And then I look at Escape from LA, and it feels like he's just not, as a director, he's not as into those things. In, like, other movies, it felt like he had so much personality as a director, you couldn't hold him back. I mean, look at Christine. I mean, Christine had no right to be directed as well as it was, but John Carpenter was a really strong director at the time. But I think if he had directed Christine at this point, that wouldn't be true, because he doesn't seem to have as much control over the camera. He's even working with the DP he's worked with before on stuff like They Live. And I liked how Carpenter used his cinematographer before in his previous films, but in this film, it just doesn't feel like there's really the love of the frame that there was in the other film. He looks like he was a couple steps up from the director of Spawn or something. He's trying to do a B movie at an A level, but it just really, this is too campy and silly to be a B movie directed in A level. It's just kind of just a B movie. I mean, a worser example of the same thing for Carpenter was Ghosts of Mars. I think Ghosts of Mars is probably his worst film. And this is certainly up there as being pretty bad, but I was kind of surprised because I saw this film a little bit ago for the first time, and I absolutely hated it. And I saw Escape from New York kind of within, I don't know, maybe 6 days from when I saw Escape from LA, and I actually liked Escape from LA a lot more than I did the first time. If you're going to watch Escape from LA, I recommend actually having watched Escape from New York within, like, a week's vicinity, or enough time where you still remember a lot of what happened in Escape from New York. It's not horrible. Well, it's kind of horrible, but it's just not horrendously awful. I mean, I think if you watch this isolated by itself, it's just not a very good movie. It's too silly and stupid. It has a horrible ending. They do a lot of similar things to that Escape from New York did. Like in the first Escape from New York, and I brought it up, I think, in the review, where he's hanging out with this girl in the truck full of nuts in Escape from New York, and it looks like, you know, they're going to be hanging out the whole movie, and then they kill her off. And in this film, there's a girl in this, and then she gets shot, and she lasts a little longer, and I actually thought that was pretty interesting. That was the only thing I thought worked well and it didn't annoy me, but then, like, certainly that the plot's the same, that the ending's very similar. It's just this film doesn't have the strong base structure that Escape from New York had, because that film, it's like a genre escape movie, you know, and Escape from LA doesn't have that foundation. It's just like, it just has all the other parts, but it doesn't have the foundation. This film seems a lot more interested in showing, like, LA, like, more of like kind of LA culture and things like that, and Escape from New York really wasn't interested in that at all. I mean, it had a cabbie character and certain odes to New York, but it wasn't as interested in it as this film is. There's some just really embarrassing scenes because of that stuff, like Snake Plissken surfs with Peter Fonda, which is like ridiculous. And although I did like that it kind of owned its ridiculousness in that scene, because he jumps from the surfboard onto Steve Buscemi's car, and I thought that scene, it's like, all right, you kind of get your campiness. It seems that this is the thing that I wanted Ghost from Mars to be, to kind of get that it was a B movie, and this film does get that it's a B movie, but it's not doing anything with it. Kurt Russell, I think he does a decent enough job. This is kind of a shitty movie, and it's a shitty script, which he helped write. Deborah Hill helped produce this, who helped produce a lot of Carpenter classics. She helped write this film. It was her, Kurt Russell, and John Carpenter. I don't really like this script very much. It's trying to be an 80s retread at a time when the 80s really weren't looked back on very favorably. At this point in the 90s, most people just thought of the 80s as incredibly cheesy and silly and stupid, and I think Escape from LA really reflects that. If it had been made maybe 10 years later, I think maybe they would have respected that decade a lot more, and maybe you would have gotten a better movie. But I wish, you know, you have Snake Plissken, he's such a cool character. I wish maybe they had done a different kind of story rather than do Escape from LA, which is very identical to the original. I just thought it could be able to do it just because of the name, and Snake's there, and, you know, he looks the same. You know, Kurt Russell apparently even fit into the same outfit that he wore in the first film 15 years later. What you really want from a Carpenter movie is not just that they're back and it's a sequel and there are these characters, but I think you want kind of the intelligence Carpenter brought to projects. You know, if you look at Halloween or something, it is a silly slasher movie, but there's an intelligence he brought to that direction. And I don't get that from Escape from LA. I think he's moving on a cheesier, kind of sillier B direction. He's really becoming a B director at this point. I don't really like Escape from LA. It's not a Carpenter classic or anything, and it's not something people are really going to remember. The only reason people remember this film is because of Escape from New York, and they go, oh, and there was a sequel. If there had been a third sequel, it would have been called Escape from Earth, and most of the world would have been turned into zombies because of black matter, and Snake would have had to defeat these zombies and get off Earth or something. That sounds cool. See, that's a film I would have liked to see. Alright, so if you have seen Escape from LA and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. I wish they had picked a funnier locale, like, I don't know, Escape from Tulsa, or like Escape from Delaware City, but Escape from LA, I don't know, we're just gonna do major cities, like Snakes on Tour or something.